ragazzi e ragazze, bentornati, benvenuti in Arcade Coffee. Welcome back. I hope you are having fun following this content. Today we're gonna have fun with Mixtape because there are a couple of discussion about this that I would like to have with you because the game was released. Actually, I haven't played. I gotta play it yet, so I'm not talking about the game. I'm gonna release my point of view as soon as I finish the game and I have my general idea about the game. Today we're gonna talk about something that it's a discussion, something that it started after the release of the game. The game is at the moment on Game Pass, but it's available as well on PC, PlayStation, whatever you want to play it. But anyway, it's starting something. Has started a discussion between critics and user. This time around, there is a big difference in opinion between the critic and the audience, and I wanna tackle that. So let's start from this. What happened with Mixtape? Mixtape, it's basically a narrative experience. It was basically published by Annapurna Interactive, and the game is heavily based on the narrative, but as well on the soundtrack, on the music, because it's a coming of age kind of experience. It's a coming of age story about those three friends, those three kid in the 90s. It takes place in the 90s, and we basically navigate their sort of memories, their action, their recollection of what happened in their youth. And it's a coming of age. It's something that kicks in nostalgia as well as and it has a lot of music by Smashing Pumpkins, Joy Division, Iggy Pop and stuff like that. And it's a game that taking basically a way of telling a story that is very over the top, dreaming and crazy, and it's not actually connected to attached to reality. But my understanding is that it's a way to revise your memory of your youth and say how crazy was that moment in time. That is gonna trigger a lot of emotion in the audience, mostly people like me that are millennial, and we are the MTV generation, the VJ. We are the generation of, yes, as well also Joy Division. We grew up in the 90s. We were contaminated by a little bit of the music from the 80s, like Devo, that it's part of Mixtape. And it was a life before social media, where basically to enjoy life you gotta go out and do stuff, and since you couldn't be brainwashed inside, you were just doing stupid stuff outside. And it's a kind of concept that it's very powerful because it managed to talk to the generation that is represented by that slice of life, kind of coming of age, a kind of story. But it's gonna tackle, I think, even new generation. This is the thing that work with Stranger Things usually, and it works before with something like Happy Days. I don't know if you ever see Happy Days, or you have any clue what is Happy Days, but it was a TV show that was insane famous, and it was produced in the 70s, if I recall correctly. In fact, Ron Howard started his career in Happy Days, but anyway, Happy Days was basically the title doesn't leave much to imagination. It's it's talking about the 50s, growing up, being young in the 50s, and it's the story of this group of friends in the 50s and their families and everything that happens there. And he managed to captivate the generation that in the 70s they were grown adult, but they were kids or teenager in the 50s, and they have memories of nostalgia of this moment in time that they romanticize it. They believe it was perfect. But at the same time, people like me that grew up in the 80s and in the 90s, on television we had still rerun of Happy Days, And I learned a lot about that moment in time, not just through cinema from the actual 50s, but also from Happy Days. I kind of absorb a little bit the culture of the 50s in the United States thanks to Happy Days, and I enjoy it. And it was like, oh, 50s must be amazing in the United States. And I started to dig a little bit, and I started to absorb a little bit of the pop culture of that moment in time. And same thing happened with Stranger Things. I grew up in the end of the 80s, but mostly in the 90s, and I know the culture of the 80s. I was a little bit impacted by it. I'm more a 90s kid because I was born in 1987, so at the end of the 80s. But I know a lot, I can relate a lot with that way of growing up. In fact, when we see a younger generation commenting on Stranger Things saying, oh, where are the grown up? Why all the kids are going around? Well, actually was like that. When I was a kid, every kid was around in my neighborhood, even in Italy. I'm from a small town. Everybody was out. Parents were, I don't know, at home or work. Some people were just staying at their nonna's, grandmother's place. The parents were at work, and we after school were going out. I'm going to, I don't know, Fabio's house. Bye, mom. And she was like, okay. And I was going to Fabio's house, not supervision. And I was like 7. It was like that. And then when I was 10, 11 was the same. I just had a little bit more freedom growing up. But it was like that, actually. Because also the way we grow up, the society allowed us to have that kind of childhood and pre-adolescence and then adolescence. But anyway, this is the kind of project that tackle that kind of niche, and it works. And I think that many of the review are impacted by this thing. But let's take this thing step by step, because first things first, I want to talk about this thing about because the part of creative decision, creative, artistic, like integrity or whatever, is going to be a huge part of the discussion here today, because so many people, streamers, complain by the fact that they couldn't stream the game because it was full of music and then copyright strike and stuff like that. And to be honest, I'm happy that this is the case. The guys from the Beethoven and Dinosaur, the developer, they release a statement on Twitter. Sorry, I can't maximize this more than this because I don't have access to Twitter, so I can open the X and can open the statement. But I'm gonna read it out loud. It's on screen if you wanna check it out. So why no streamer mode? We have got a few questions about why Mixtape has no streamer mode. It's a fair question. Mixtape is about music. It's about Devo. Devo, it's a band. It's about the Smashing Pumpkins and Lush and Alice Coltrane. It's about how you feel when you listen to Iggy Pop. The characters talks about the song. The levels are designed around the songs. We couldn't change the songs. We couldn't replace them. We just couldn't. If you miss. If you wanted to stream Mixtape and cannot because of this, we are truly sorry. But as David Gray say in Shine, your soul is the one thing you can't compromise, and music is the soul of Mixtape. And speaking of artistic choices, this makes a lot of sense, because this is not the case as a rhythm game where music kind of is there to pump you up and play with the rhythm of the music. Like I never remember. I love that game, but every time I fail to remember the title of the game. Hi-Fi Rush. Hi-Fi Rush, for example, is heavily based on music because it's a rhythm game, sort of hacker/rhythm game. But if you change the music, I mean, the music that they chose is to hype you up while you play it. But and of course, if you put good iconic music, is gonna be more interesting. But if you make a streamer mode with just generic music made for the game and allow people to stream, it's fine, it's the same. In this case, for the discussion that we just had, about the concept of mixtape, you can't replace the music, because the artistic choice was to tell that specific story. And music, when we talk about movies and we talk about even life itself, it's a great narrator, it's a great voice, it's a narrative tool that is very powerful, because music defines time. I mean, if you want to go back to the 80s, let's take an example that everybody can understand because now it's super popular. You think about um, running up that hill, okay, by Catherine Bush. I don't remember her name. Kate Bush. Kate Bush. But you think of that song about Kate Bush, you're back in the 80s. You listen to the song, you're back in the 80s. Mostly if you grow up in that moment in time, as soon as you heard the music, you can, in your personal way, everyone that was born in that moment in time and grow up in that moment in time can connect the song to a specific moment in time. Music, it's like the sense of smell. For example, when I smell burning wood, like from a barbecue, stuff like that, my minds go back to the summer I spent in Sicily with my grandfather, turning up the barbecue and grilling. I go back to that house in Sicily, to the sky of the night. It was so clean and the wind was so nice, and the cricket and the sound of the cricket and the quiet of that house, and how amazing were those summer. I go back in time with that smell, and every time I smell that burning wood, I go back to that moment of my life. And music is exactly the same. When I hear, I don't know, when I watched Iron Man 3 the first time, I was in the movie theater and they start the song Amblo Dabudi Babudai. It's an Italian song actually, by an Italian band that went worldwide. But I go back exactly in a moment in time when that song was released. And I go back in time. Same thing, one of my favorite bands are Red Hot Chili Peppers. And when I hear Californication, I go back to the first time I watched the video of Californication on MTV on the couch of my house. I go back in time. Music, it's a great way to connect super easily memories and mood. And in this case, mixtape, since it's like a recollection, and not recollection, it's built, it's a coming of age experience that is take place in the 90s, and is connected to the music that many kids like myself listened in the 90s. I had a friend that was a musician. He was playing the guitar, and he was like my pusher. it was like like the merchant from Resident Evil 4, but with music. Imagine a guy with long hair, a metalhead guy coming, friend, look what I got. It's very creepy, but he's a great guy. But anyway, he was playing the guitar and listening to a bunch of music, and it was like, oh, listen to Devo, listen to NoFX, listen to Smashing Pumpkins, listen to Pearl Jam, listen to this thing, Iggy Pop. And I learned a lot of music thanks to that friendship. And I was listening music from the 80s and from the early 90s when I was born in 87, so early 2000 I was still I was like 13, something like that. So by then I couldn't listen different music, not like music for kids, and I started to discover all these artists that came out in the early 90s. I remember every time I listened to the Cranberries, I remember like a specific moment in time. For the first time I fell in love with the Cranberries, and it's something that you can't replace. And you can't replace this if in the story you're trying to tell, even in the dialogue, in the script, and in the way they design the level, the music, it's part that inspired that level design, the dialogue, and stuff like that. Because sometimes we learn things from music. And I'm gonna quote what they say. David Grad says in Shine, your soul is the one thing you can't compromise. So in music sometimes have stuff that you bring with you, and they become part of who you are and how you think and how you live your life and how you navigate life. And so you can't replace that, and I understand. And to be honest, I get the whole streaming thing. I get it. I totally get it. But guys, I think here, complain that you can't stream it because there is no streamer mode. I see two problems. First, you don't get video games. You don't get video games and you don't get from form of art. Because if you don't get playing that game, or at least approaching the game, that there is a specific artistic choice and you don't get the artistic choice and you complain, what are we doing? You are in debt for the money, and that's it. I gotta be honest. I think you're into the whole thing of streaming video game just to make money, and you don't get whatever you're playing. Or maybe like you're playing many video games, but you haven't learned nothing about this form of art and this form of entertainment. You literally are completely oblivious of how it works. And the second things that I'm thinking is that you want to kind of have an easy buck. But to be honest, because you know how these things works. You know that since it's a story-driven kind of game and is most likely very nostalgic and emotional and stuff like that, and the kind of things that a lot of people want to follow like a TV show, you are gonna have an easy buck. Because, oh, he's playing Mixtape, I totally wanna watch this, and people are gonna connect with you to your stream because you're giving them the TV show that they want to follow, that in this case is Mixtape. I'm sorry. I'm being very skeptical. I don't think none of the streamers will complain. We're like, oh, but we can't share this amazing work of art. No. You wanted to make an easy buck. That's what I think. Sorry, because it stinks like this is the main reason. But moving on. The other thing that I want to talk about is, as I said before, and it's all connected. There is a reason why I started from this. And I had done the kind of introduction that I done is going to become clearer now. When we talk about this huge divide between game critics and in some cases even people that works in the industry as creative and the user, as you can see, or I'm going to describe it for you in case you're just listening, Mixtape has a Metascore of 85. Some critics are talking about their GOTY so far, and at the same time, some creators are saying this is my GOTY. This stink like a GOTY. And then you have the mixed average user, 545 user rating, and this at 6.3. So there is a huge disconnect. And this time around, I don't want to go into the whole thing, oh, the critics are cooked, the critic is bad. I mean, there is a little bit of that as well. But I don't think we can talk about desync between the critic and the audience. Because critic and audience, if we take a game that it's kind of similar in concept and execution, kind of similar in concept and execution, that is Dispatch, the story was kind of different. So some people ask for the GOTY for Dispatch, and it has a Metascore of 87 with 61 critic review and a user 2,449 review by the user, and it's at 8.8. So it's pretty online. I think there is a huge difference in what the two games are doing, because my understanding is that they both have the same kind of structure. So Dispatch, it's not like there is a proper gameplay. There is a sort of very light managerial kind of not managerial, but I don't remember how it's called. But anyway, you have to manage those superhero and their call, but it's something very light. And even the choice, some of those guys were from Telltale, and I hated Telltale at some point because some of the multiple choice are like, it's not like Detroit Become Human. It's like an illusion of multiple choice. Actually, whatever happened is not that different. There is a slight difference, and it sometimes is not that impacting of the overall of the story. And this patch is kind of the same. And in Mixtape, the complaint by the user, it's kind that there is no gameplay, because my understanding, I still have to play the game. I'm not talking about how the end result is. I'm talking about, this is a more conceptual discussion, okay? So stay with me. My understanding is that the game, it's an experience. So, for example, in the trailer, we have seen many times those scenes where they skate down a hill. This is on my wish list. This has been on my wish list for a long time. So I want to play this. But you see this scene of them skating down a hill, and basically I read multiple people saying you do nothing. Basically, you can't even leave the pad on your couch, and the game is gonna just move forward. Your input is basically meaningless. Even in some part where it's like walking sim, as people like to say. I don't like that definition. It's like, yeah, you walk a little bit around. There are basically mini games where you do some stuff, but the problem is not that the game is no game over, so you can't fail. The problem here is that you basically your input as a gamer is so minimal, as much as this patch if I can, that it basically feels that you are more as an audience than as a player. But one of my point is that it was the same with this patch. This patch is a great TV show, but it's not as great as a game, if we want to talk about gaming. Because if I see a narrative game like Detroit Become Human, that's a game that leads that involves a lot the player, because you gotta figure out stuff, you make a lot of different choices, there are a lot of different outcomes, you are involved in what's going on. Here you're like more an audience with a minimal impact. Those games are more like, let's go back in time, those kind of DVD game that you could play with your remote for the television. That's kind of it. It's an elevated form compared to those games, but it's kind of that. And I'm not saying in a shameful way. It's a genre, but I understand the critique, and the critique, I think it's valid. It's not an experience that has any gameplay. So, for example, it's not like The Last of Us as a huge narrative component, Metal Gear Solid and other games, Alan Wake 2, Alan Wake in general, Remedy games have a huge narrative component that is fantastic. But there is a huge narrative of gameplay. And because at the end of the day, those developers, they have a clear idea of the kind of game that they want to make, and they manage to make it work. Gameplay with narrative. In this case, we have developer who use video game to convey story that are very emotional, that are very impactful, that are very creative, that are fantastic, and they use the kind of a little bit the gaming experience to be sort of a way to say this is a video game. We are not going to make a movie, because this will be weird. How can you sell this as a piece of entertainment? You make a 4-hour movie or a 4-hour miniseries, you can do that, and you put it on, I don't know, Netflix, Prime, whatever you want to sell it, and you make your own thing. You can do that. This patch could have been perfectly a TV show, animated TV show. Like they made Arcane. They could have made this as a TV show, Mixtape both and this patch as well. They could have done that. They would maybe failed. This is an Annapurna. Annapurna is a protection for even movies and stuff like that. They could have done that, to be honest. The problem is that, is this going to reach an audience? Nah. I don't know. It's gonna be a tough cookie to sell. If you sell it to a streamer and then it's gonna gain traction and popularity like Arcane, maybe it's gonna work out. But in this case, if you make a video game, most likely you're gonna make more money, because every time you sell stuff to Netflix, they're gonna own basically most of the thing. They're gonna see most of the benefit. In this case, since we are talking game developer, in order to, I don't know, make sustainable their line of work, they need a kind of revenue from those games, from those experiences, that probably it's way higher than what they can get from a deal with Netflix or Prime. I don't know. I'm speculating. But I understand the criticism. I'm not saying that that I agree 100%. This kind of game can exist. It's fine. I'm gonna leave my judgment to after my gameplay. But I'm trying to lean into the discussion. What I'm saying is that why this argument it's important for Mixtape but was okay with Dispatch. And I believe the answer is that Mixtape it's a little bit more niche, because as I was saying before, it targets a specific nostalgia that is for a specific generation, and most likely the new generation, the younger generation, Gen Z probably is gonna kind of hate this, probably because they think it's so too millennial and they're gonna hate it. I've seen a couple of articles like, oh, the millennial cringe, stuff like that, and it's not healthy to always attack stuff in this way. But anyway, and they're probably not gonna like it. Maybe someone will like it, will have the same effect as I said before, Happy Days, Stranger Things. Maybe someone will say, oh, 90s were kind of cool. I like the music. I like the fact that the kids have more freedom. They had no social media. Maybe someone will be fascinated by those stories. Okay? But I think it's a niche. Instead, Dispatch is something that is insane popular. Insane. I mean, Dispatch is pop culture, because superhero culture, I'm gonna be honest, when I was when I was a kid, I feel like, sorry, don't pick on me because I'm talking like an old man. But when I was a kid, and I was into superheroes, I was into anime, I was into manga, and I was in a class in high school, and was a huge class with 28 people in my class. And you know how many out of those 28 people, and since I was studying IT, there were just a bunch of girls, but most of the boys, you know how many out of 28 people were actual gamer, and maybe there were people liking, I don't know, anime, manga, and superhero? 3. Out of 28 in my class, there was me and other 2 guys. This was the ratio. This was the ratio. And it's not like manga were not big in Italy. Italy and Spain in Europe are the 2 biggest market. We love anime and manga. There's a huge culture phenomena here. And basically, this superhero scene with The Boys, Invincible, stuff like that grew in the last 10, 20 years. Thanks to Marvel first, the explosion of the Marvel in cinema, movies, and then with everything that came up. We grew up, this thing became big, and a story like Dispatch is very attractive for the audience, because it's something that they think The Boys, they think that kind of not corny and like superhero like Marvel kind of things, and they dig it, and it's a phenomena. I think that this is the main difference, that mixtape it's more niche, And so people are complaining more. And people are complaining also more because it's so niche that it's not even on stream because of the music, the choice, and we discussed this before. And so basically it's even more niche, and it's something, oh, no, they don't want to stream? What does it mean? And some people get angry for no reason. I don't know. But I think this is the first problem. Then there is a second problem. So this is a side of the story. But at the same time, I agree with the audience and with the point made against Mixtape that, according to me, is supposed to be charged on this patch as well, because this patch for many people was like, GOTY, why wasn't awarded the GOTY for the narrative of the Game Awards? I kind of agree, because Claire Obscure is not that brilliant in narrative, to be honest. The ending is like, oh my god. I was like, oh no, this is the most cliche, is no, it can't be real. But anyway, except for that, just forget about that. But the thing is that I think the same point applied to this patch. And the thing is that I believe I'm talking about critic, so someone who decide to spend his life playing video game because he loves them so much, and he loves the inside out of this form of entertainment or form of art, and he has to make a critical analysis of the game. I think somebody that has this role should not give in too much to his art and to his feeling, because I think most of the review made by critics are very positive because they are emotionally invested in the production, and it's inevitable in a way, because this is what it is. That's why I made the point at the beginning, because this is that kind of story that's gonna drive most of the people that play video game now to like it very much. Because when I check my stats for people listening my Italian podcast, out of 600 and something people that are listening to the podcast, almost 40% is between like 27 and 35. It's a huge chunk of people. So a huge chunk of people in general playing video game, even if I check the stats of the research they made, the big chunk of people playing video game and buying video game and moving the economy, it's people like me that is approaching their 40s. Most of the people buying video game and actually moving the economy of video game. So that means that Mixtape, yes, it's a niche, as I said before, but it's a niche that if this huge chunk of gamer get exposed to, they're gonna respond. And people who write for gaming, if you check Kind of Funny Gamecast and other content, and even a website where people talk about video game, a huge chunk of those people, they are like me, millennials. They are in their late 30s, somebody is over 40s, somebody is even in their 50s. The gaming journalist sphere has a lot of young people who write stuff very stupid, like the review of Mouse PI for Hire of the piece on PC Gamer about 007. That was hilarious, I swear. But anyway, let's go beyond this. And what I think is that there is a huge impact on that chunk of people. And so I believe that Mixtape, so many reviewers should rethink the way they review game, because I think the enthusiasm is driven by the fact that Mixtape, most likely, it's so well told and it's so good in the pitching that moment in time that is bringing us, the reviewer, back to their youth. And this is so freaking powerful. And in a way, if it works so well, means, of course, that is well done. The game, the main thing that the game is doing is this narrative thing, bringing people back to a specific moment in time and gives the vibe of that moment in a dreamlike sort of romanticizing that moment in time. And if it's well done. This response, I mean, if that aspect is super well done, like this response is probably pointing to, means that the game is in its own niche a kind of a masterpiece because it works. So in a way, yes, they are right in praising so much the game. But at the same time, you can't let your heart completely drive your analysis. You gotta say, look, to the audience, you gotta say, look, guys, as a millennial, as a guy grew up in the 90s, I was a teenager in the 90s, or I was a teenager in the early 2000s. I totally understand this. I get the vibes. This is my story. This is my teenage year. This is my youth. And it's amazing. And nobody has told this story in this way. And to be honest, in all fairness, as a millennial, nobody, even in TV or in cinema, is telling this story as well. And the whole legacy, speaking even of music, is not out there. To be honest, I most of the time I never hear stuff with Red Hot Chili Peppers, Smashing Pumpkins, Pearl Jam, those kind of bands that were huge in the 90s and early 2000s, and that they changed music. I never hear this stuff in storytelling and stuff like that. It's like that an entire, even Audioslave. I love Audioslave. Chris Cornell, he was fantastic. Unfortunately, he passed away. Cranberries, they were fantastic. I love them. They're not part of narrative. It's like an entire generation is not being, the story of an entire generation is not being told. And when you have something like this that is telling this story, you gotta say, guys, I totally dig it. I'm so happy that somebody is telling my story, is telling my youth. Because the entertainment industry spent an insane amount of time to romanticize the 80s, but nobody is talking about the 90s and the early 2000s, and it's insane. And so, as a reviewer, you should say that, but then, as a reviewer, you should use your analytical skill to say, okay, but this game, this amazing masterpiece that I love dearly and to me is very well written, supposedly, allegedly, because I haven't played, but supposedly it's very well written and it works, and even is directing so well. The design is amazing. I love the design. I haven't played, but visually I like it very much. I think it's amazing. It's warm. It's also this thing. I made. I don't know if I'm gonna release it before. I think I will release this before that. But I'm talking about Edgefield Hyde, and the use of color and stuff like that. It's completely fucked in Edgefield Hyde. That kind of bully-like kind of game is completely fucked. And here it's amazing, the use of colors. This is actual artistical value because they know what they're doing, and this is amazing. But anyway, the point I'm trying to make is this: even if I dig everything, I gotta say, I think that there has to be a discussion about, okay, but is this actually a video game? Can be intended as a niche of a niche. So what I'm saying is that the discussion of the point I want to make is that a reviewer should also say something like, this is a niche of a niche. Because in the last years, since the whole indie scene started, and it started back with like the mod for Half-Life 2, like Dear Esther. Dear Esther was a mod for Half-Life 2, was using Source to create a small game. And it was kind of one of those games that started a wave of first-person, story-driven, narrative game with puzzle element or narrative element, but gameplay was puzzle element that were driving the gameplay. And in a way, they replaced the point and click scene. So the point and click died according to my point. That's what I think. I used to play a lot of point and click, but they age kind of in a way of how the way we experience gaming, and they were replaced by those first person very immersive experience, DRester, or stuff like, oh my god, I gotta open my Steam account because I don't remember some. I played a lot of them, but now the Edith Finch. I'm gonna find it. Edith Finch. Sorry, if I don't find the actual name of there, what remain of Edith Finch. Sorry, I really needed to find this because I was going mental. I am going mental if I never. This what remain of Edith Finch. This kind of narrative, very heartfelt, and Going Home, I think, was another one. Those kind of experiences reshaped the idea of the adventure game. They moved from the point and click adventure game to first person immersive experience adventure game, and a new niche was born. And even what remained of Edith Finch, yes, there are elements of gameplay. There is gameplay in it. There are puzzle and stuff like that. They are very, I would say, straightforward and easy, even if it's immersive, even if it's artistically amazing. It's still very straightforward as a game. It's very easy to navigate. There are no huge component of gameplay. You can compare this game with the element of gameplay that we have in a survival horror like Alan Wake or Alan Wake 2 or Resident Evil, or speaking of game with a huge and very good narrative, The Last of Us, or Metal Gear Solid or Uncharted. But there are many of experiences like this, and they redefine a genre and a way to experience video game. But then there were born stuff like the Telltale games that many people love dearly. At the beginning, I loved The Walking Dead, but because as a young reviewer, I was working for a video game website, I was captured by the story, and I gotta be honest, my judgment back then, to me, that was my go-to, because the story was so compelling. But as a video game, when I start to re-experience again and again, I started to understand how limited it was, and how the illusion of actual choice was an illusion. And there are so many examples like that. And in time, we had stuff like Detroit Become Human, Heavy Rain, stuff like that. Some became very, 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 very iconic as a video game and as a genre. And Night in the Woods, for example, I don't know if you remember Night in the Woods. It has elements of gameplay that are very arcade or are very simplistic, whatever you want to put it, with great storytelling. Night in the Woods trailer, I'll show you the trailer. And so we have a completely new niche of gaming. Okay, there are so many games like this. But then we have experience like Mixtape or Dispatch, or as I was saying, the Telltale games, where the gameplay, it's even drier. It's even less than what you can experience with those video games that I mentioned before. There is a game that I love so much that it's more about investigating and finding out the story. Now I don't remember the title. I will find it. Like, for example, Mouthwashing. Mouthwashing is an indie game, a great indie game, great story. It's a first-person PS1 inspired kind of a visual, and it's amazing. But the gameplay, it's very limited to puzzles and solve stuff and talk to people. But still, it has a gameplay that it's way more complex to what we see in game like Dispatch or Mixtape. And so, as a reviewer, you gotta say, so this is a niche of a niche of a niche. So it's something very new, very different, with its own nuances, and we should judge it for what it is. It's a great experience, it's a great story, but it's also very limited. It's also something that not everyone will enjoy to experience because there is not much of a gameplay. And my discussion is not saying, oh, this is not a video game, this is not an actual video game, this could have been a TV show. Yes, I agree. But it's also a gaming experience. It's a very small niche of the gaming experience. I get the gameplay is very dry, let's say dry. But taking in consideration all of this, the nature of this gameplay, my final point is a reviewer should be aware of the nature of this game of Mixtape and say, I don't know if this can go for a GOTY. Because to be honest, let's look at the stuff that are being released this year, stuff that are already out or that are going to be out. Let's suppose, for example, Pragmata. Pragmata is a good arcade kind of game. It has a story that can be compelling or not. There were a critique to the story. But take as well the new 007. I don't know if the story is good. I don't know if the storytelling is going to be good. But let's suppose that the storytelling is very compelling. It's a very good story. So well written. 007 is amazing. The action is amazing. Is well directed when we have cinematic or cutscene or whatever you want to call them. The gameplay is fun, has a big replayability. If I put those two games on a scale, I'm not saying that 007 is the GOTY. I'm making an example. Let's suppose that game is stellar under every part of the game. And then we have Mixtape. For as much as I value and I understand how difficult it is to make a game like Mixtape and how challenging it is to achieve that level of artistic expression and how valuable it is. On the other hand, you have a game, you have a piece of entertainment or art, whatever you want to define it, that is more complex. Because you have the artificial intelligence of the enemy, action that you can make, multiple different action. You're providing people with a gameplay that is so there's so many shades that you can replay maybe the same part of the game in different way and the outcome will be different. For example, in The Last of Us Part 2, I've done it. I tested the game. I played many different time the same area and I had different outcome because the gameplay allow you to have different approach, but also because the AI was so good, the artificial intelligence of the enemy was so good that they were taking different action, different path, and the response were different, and you could interact in many different way. So you have something that is way more complex to develop. And of course, if I'm a serious reviewer, on an analytical level, I gotta say that game, 007, it's way more valuable than Mixtape. Because the effort to achieve a gameplay that is so complex, compelling, well done, and fun, and replayable, plus a bloody good narrative, it's more valuable. Again, not because on the other hand I have something that it's easy to achieve. Because as we have seen in the recent history, we've Kill the Justice League, Dragon Age, write a good story. Apparently, it's very difficult. Even if you think about the new Saints Row, the reboot that has a writing that, oh my God, you want to crawl in a corner and cry. And it's very difficult to achieve. It's something very valuable. Even the directing, even Crimson Desert. I haven't fun with Crimson Desert, but the whoever is saying that the writing is good is crazy. The narrative is bad. Even basic dialogue are very bad. I mean, it's like, oh my God, you never wrote anything in your life, man. It's the first time. You're gonna go, okay, That's fine. Same thing applies to many other games where the narrative and the writing and the dialogue are very bad or are very amateurish. Even the directing a cutscene, sometimes even in Crimson Desert, cross the field, there are error in directing. It's a mess. Sometimes it's a mess. I watch the cutscenes or the dialogue in game, I go like, okay, Jesus Christ. Not even trying. Not even trying. It's very bad sometimes. But anyway, the point is, technically, as achievement, a game like 007, a game like Crimson Desert, not the game per se, but the genre, the kind of game, a game like GTA 6, when it's gonna come out, it's way more complex. And the fact that they achieve a stunning, or in some cases, like I think is going to be the case of GTA 6, something that is going to be revolutionary, it's way more difficult than develop something like Mixtape. So at the end of the day, I have to shut down a part of my heart and said, okay, I love this. And I can make my point, as I did at the beginning of this video, on this content, of this podcast, stating everything that I stated, that I understand all of that it hit a spot, that is amazing written, whatever it is the case, the game is doing well. I have to say that, although I gotta build the case on the fact that the game is a very niche of a niche, there is not much of gameplay, it's mostly an experience, and at the end of the day, if they gotta give a goatee to a game, it can't be Mixtape. I'm sorry, it's a great game. Maybe in the category of narrative, maybe it's gonna be the most well-written game of the year. Also because achieve a good writing in the coming of age kind of space, it's very difficult. You see with the Forspoken and other game, how can you easily fuck up a teenager of a young man, girl talking? Saint Row, for example, it's super easy to fuck it up and to make something super cringe and unnatural and just weird. And so maybe at the end of the year, we're all going to be here saying, well, okay, those games are all fantastic as an overall game, but the narrative, the best narrative, maybe Mixtape is the best. Maybe use of the music, Mixtape is the best. Maybe even on a design, speaking of visual design, it's amazing. Maybe that's the best cutscene, the best direction, speaking of directing visually the narrative, not directing the game. It has most likely many valuable thing inside, but as an overall game, I gotta tell to my audience that to me has a spot as one of the goatee because it hits a spot on a narrative level, mood, feeling and stuff like that. But as an overall game, I have to recognize that this is not a masterpiece. Because then the final problem is that also that many people just read the vote. I hate giving vote. I think votes are misleading, are a way of, it's an extreme synthesis kind of a conclusion that doesn't make any sense if you don't read the whole thing. And if you don't build an actual case, building a critique of the game. So, I believe also a big part of the problem is not a disconnection between user and reviewers, is to summarize all of this, that a big chunk of the user is not into whatever Mixtape is telling, because everything that is a problem with Mixtape was okay in this patch, because basically conceptually, the level of not having gameplay is the same in this patch, but just you prefer more that world. This is it. The other problem is that the reviewer are giving what they feel in their heart too much space, and there is too much enthusiasm in the moment and not a cold kind of, not cold, but just an analytic view of what the game is. And so Yes, great for whatever things, mood, I like it, I dig it, hit a spot. But although we gotta say that even if I love it, those games probably at the end of the day are gonna be they are more complex and they're gonna hit more spots and they're gonna be mostly the GOTY. At this point, we are the year has 12 months. I remember. I want to remember this. A year has 12 months. This is the 5th month of the year. We can't decide the GOTY right now. We can't. It's good for the headlines, for amassing click and rage baiting, but we can't. There's so many games that are going to be released, Fable and other stuff. But anyway, and at the end of the day, it's also a problem with the fact that I believe too many people are just deciding what they're going to play based on just the vote, the Metascore, and the word GOTY. Because I started to see people saying on Twitter after the GOTY, Fred, that I abandoned because I can't really deal with Fred and the psychotic machine that moves Fred. But anyway, a lot of people were like, oh, I'm playing Clever Obscure. I hope this is worth my time and this is a real GOTY. Because it became like the Oscar. If you put the word GOTY or Oscar worthy or GOTY worthy beside a game or a movie, people expect that something magic happen, and that thing is universal. So it's going to be universally praised and liked by anyone. And to be honest, is impossible. I don't think exists a movie that is literally universally liked or acclaimed by anyone. Because unfortunately, no, luckily, people have different point of view and we don't like the same exact things. And this is a trigger when we talk about genre. A video game can be the best video game ever made in the horror genre. You can make, I don't know, I know many people that go like, I don't like horror game, I can't bear them. So can be the best horror game ever made, but they can't. For them, it's not gonna work. And this happen in cinema and in music and in gaming. The genre is a big component. If you don't like that thing, you don't like that thing. If you don't like that poetry, let's say, that is at the base of the thing they are playing or listening or watching, you're not gonna like it. That's fine. Then there is the unfortunate part of this whole thing, that is that people just like to say the opposite of whatever everybody is saying. In Italy, we call those people the bastian contrario, so the guy that needs to do the opposite of what everybody is doing just for the sake of it. We know those people. Unfortunately, they exist and they have a miserable life. But anyway, the point is that unfortunately so many people, they put wrong expectation on high votes and on the fact that the game is labeled as GOTY worthy. Doesn't work like that. It's GOTY worthy means that it is worthy to be labeled as one of the game of the year. Doesn't mean that universally you gotta like it. Because I mean, Red Dead Redemption 2, it's a great video game. Didn't win the GOTY, for example, but it's a great video game. It's a must play. But if you don't like open worlds that eats your life, if you don't like to explore much and to step inside mission and stuff like that, if you don't like Western, maybe you fucking hate Western cowboys and stuff like that, maybe you're not gonna like Red Dead Redemption 2. I have news. Maybe you don't like superheroes. You can't get the word of superheroes. For you, it's stupid and naive. And so maybe Batman Arkham Knight, that is universally acclaimed, is gonna be stupid for you because you just can't fathom the kind of logic that move that word, and you're just not gonna like it because for you it's gonna be stupid. Or maybe you don't like that, again, open world, many things to do, heavily narrative. You don't like that. That's it. You're not gonna like it. It's fine. It's fine. But this is the last point. People put wrong expectation. I don't think that is In this case, I don't think it's about a disconnect between critics and audience. I think this is a very specific case of what mixtape is, how the critics are reacting, and what's their mistake in putting too much art. And on the other hand, there is an audience that it's kind of very arbitrary in liking stuff that they are part of the same genre, and sometimes they are easily baited to enthusiasm and to trigger word like "goatee worthy" or "this is my goatee." It's too much. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this episode with the clap. Ole, come on! I'm Italian. I make noise. It's chaotic. If you like chaos, welcome. Welcome to this amazing content. You can have fun. Anyway, let me know your thoughts. Let me know what you think. Maybe we can discuss about some of your points. If you have interesting point, you can share it, and maybe we can discuss another episode and share thoughts. Let's just share thoughts. Thoughts, please. Thoughts. Think before you type, and after you type, please, for the love of God, I navigate social media. I've been on internet since there were forums and blog. For the love of God, read before send, because sometimes I read stuff and they don't make any sense. And it's not like because I'm an Italian speaker, even in Italian, they don't make any sense. People commenting in Italian, I read the stuff and it doesn't make any sense. There are flow of logic and grammar that are insane. So please read before you send, for the love of God. Anyway, hear you next time. I believe I'm gonna post this before the other one, but is coming out an episode about Edgefield High, the Rock the School, because I think it's a bufala, and you're going to say, what is a bufala? You will find out in that content. I'm gonna ramble on about the bufala concept, but I think you will appreciate. But anyway, hear you next time. I gotta drink water. Drink water. It's amazing. Bye bye.